Hello and happy Christmas. My name's Steve. This is a box of Roman pottery that I found over the years walking the Thames foreshore on a particular site in Kent. A few months ago the Finds Liaison Officer at the Museum of London came down. He took these away to record and he brought them back a few months ago, and this is the first time that I'll have opened this box since. I assume there's some good stuff in here. Be interesting to see what Stuart decided to take away and record. Let's have a look. Nice box of Roman. This is nice. This is a black burnished ware bowl. As you can see, rather nice chunk. This was found eroding out the foreshore, at the top of the foreshore. It's in very nice condition. When I actually found this, it was lined with straw on the inside. And apparently the Romans would often line bowls like this with straw to keep food warming. So you'd have your, I don't know, say for example some cooked apples. Put in the bowl, straw around it, keeps them warm on the table. A very nice chunk. Slight decoration around the collar. Quite a nice piece. Very common to find this stuff along the Medway and the Thames on the Kent and Essex side. Also made in Colchester, but this is probably locally made in Kent. Probably 2nd century. Another piece of black burnish ware. The thing with black burnish ware, it's not always black. It quite often looks grey, although it's all comes under the same umbrella, black burnish ware. This one's got a fairly distinctive, characteristic fan sort of decoration running up it. What this white stuff is, I'm not sure. It could just be where the pot's been thrown into a rubbish dump in antiquity, someone's thrown some whitewash on it, marked all the pot. It has been suggested by a fellow mudlarker, Warren, that perhaps these are snail trails or slugs or mollusks on the foreshore that have baked in the sun and left these markings on these pots. I'm really not sure. Quite a nice chunk though, would have been quite a nice little urn, that one. Again, probably 2nd century, probably made locally in Kent. What else have we got? This is nice. Again, this is black burnished, but it's not locally made. This, I'm pretty sure, was made in Highgate woods, or Highgate woods type pottery. It's very nicely burnished with the panels of dots. This would have been a poppy head beaker, quite characteristic for Highgate woods ware. This is Highgate woods C+ ware. So it would date probably from 140 to 160 AD offhand. Yeah, quite a nice piece. It would have been a lovely bowl originally. What else have we got? This is quite nice. It's just a small fragment of a base of a little pedestal jar. Looks like it's colour coded, some sort of slip on it. No idea where that was made. I would have a guess either Colchester or perhaps on the Medway marshes. Hopefully when I see this on PASS I'll have a little bit more information on it. PASS is the Portable Antiquities Scheme. Whenever anything of interest is found and reported to the Museum of London or any finds officer, it will be recorded on the Portable Antiquities Scheme, and usually, unless it's something very special, the object will be returned to you, as all these have been returned to me. What else have we got here? This looks quite interesting. This is a little pot base. Again, this is very similar to this. Probably both Highgate woods ware. One characteristic of Highgate's woodware, Roman pottery, is the base. The base quite often has a concentric ring running round it, which is very characteristic of Highgate woodware. Although very similar pottery with the same rim on the base has been found on the Medway estuary, so perhaps the Upchurch industries on the Medway were also making this kind of vessel. What else have we got? Oh, another rim. Again, two pieces stuck together, black burnished ware. Nice big chunky ring of a cooking pot. You can see scorch marks on it. Has been used for cooking. Unlike this one, which is very similar, was used as tableware. This one was used in the kitchen. Again, this would have been made locally along the Kent coast of the Thames estuary, but you'll also find this sort of stuff in Essex as well, along the Thames foreshore. Oh, this is another nice. This is a little flagon rim. Beautiful little object. Rather nice that. Flagons are interesting because the Romans didn't actually have flagons until they invaded Britain, and they seem to have been a sort of British innovation amongst Roman pottery. I assume it's due to our liking for beer. So that's that one. Oh, this is quite nice. This is another piece of what I'm pretty sure is Highgate ware. Nice little decoration on it. Little rim sherd. The interesting thing about this piece is it's got a little splodge of some sort of blue substance on it. I don't know if that was perhaps a bit of dye that's been chucked into the rubbish dump after the pot's been broken up and thrown into it. But I'd love to know what that is. Any ideas? Let me know. Now this doesn't look very spectacular, but it's one of my favourite finds because I never thought I'd be able to identify it. Now then, what could that be? That is in fact a hypercourse tile spacer. Hypercourse tiles were hollow rectangular tiles that would run up the walls of Roman buildings, carrying heat up from underneath the floor up through the walls, thus heating the building. And basically you would have the wall here, this here with an iron spike going through it, and the hypercourse tile there. It was to keep the hypercourse tile away from the wall, just to space the tiles out. These appear to be rather a rare find, which is surprising because you would have thought that there'd be loads of these about, but apparently not. So that was a nice find, and I've seen a similar one, well an identical one, in Maidstone Museum, found on the same find spot more or less. So that was rather nice. What else have we got here? Oh, this is nice. A nice chunk of a black burnished ware deep dish, maybe for making pies. You can imagine that'd make a pie that would probably feed several people, I would imagine. But lovely condition. And when I found this, I thought it was part of a black plastic flower pot floating high on the foreshore, just at the edge of the water. But no, lovely bit of Roman. Again, probably 2nd century. One thing about this piece that's quite interesting is there are two sorts of black burnish ware that were made, two major types. There was black burnish ware 1, which was made in Dorset, and black burnish ware 2, made in Kent and Essex. The black burnish ware 2 is a little later and tends to be a little bit more nicely made, wheel thrown, quite good quality, and quite often they have a beveled edge around the base. You never get that with black burnish ware 1. You only get that lovely beveled edge with black burnish wear too. Again, probably 2nd century. Plain, no decoration on it, but a nice piece nonetheless. Let's see what this piece is. A fairly nondescript piece. Again, part of a shallow bowl. No great interest there, but it's slightly different colour, slightly lighter colour than most of the stuff I find. So it might have been made elsewhere and transported to this site back in the day, 1900 years ago. And here we have another piece of rim of some sort of shallow dish. I mean, this looks like very white, pale burnish ware. It's nicely burnished, it's smooth, and I haven't come across this sort of stuff before. I haven't any idea where it was made. So if anybody knows, I would love to know. So that's quite interesting, only in as much as I don't really find that sort of material. What have we here? This is another piece of a black burnish ware rim with, again, panels of dots on it. So again, that could be Highgate woods. These panels aren't found on the stuff that was manufactured along the Kent side of the Thames estuary, the black burnish ware. So this isn't locally produced. This would have been imported from some other part of the country. Again, I think it's Highgate woodware because of the panels of dots. They think that these panels of dots, the easiest way that the potters could have made them is by getting a small piece of leather and piercing holes in it, wait until the clay was almost dry, and then just apply the leather around the pot, leaving these little panels of dots. But who knows? Who knows? Oh, this is rather nice. Some Roman glass. I don't find a lot of this. I don't know if you can see that. That's the handle off what's called an Arabolus bottle. These were bottles made for bathing. You'd put your oils or your lotions in the bottle. A cord would be threaded through the handles, handle either side, and hung on the hip. And you'd have the bottle hanging from you while you were bathing, and you tip the oil on you and do your thing with it. But quite a nice find. And what else have we got? Again, a nice little bowl with a slight pattern on it. I don't know if you can see that, it's got a sort of squiggle running across it, very coarse, very crude. It amazes me that the Romans would make these beautiful vessels and decorate them so roughly. But then again, I suppose they were pretty functional, so the decoration didn't really matter. I've got a feeling that probably the potter's children would decorate these vessels. What else do we? This is a piece of shellyware. A bit of a stabbing decoration or comb decoration around the collar. These were large storage vessels made along the Kent side of the Thames estuary. There is a theory that they were used for transporting salt because there was a lot of salt making going on in these areas, as well as pottery manufacturing rather. And here's another example of a rim of a shellware storage jar, cross decoration on that one. They always seem to have some sort of decoration around the collar of the vessel. what else have we here? Oh, this is a lump. Oh yes, this is nice. This is a chunk of a mortarium, or a Roman mixing bowl. They would have mixed spices and things in with it. This one's fairly smooth. It doesn't look like it had that many grits to start off with. Often these would have really rough grits in them. So this might have been more of a mixing bowl for flour rather than for grinding. If you have a look at, if you can see that herringbone pattern, that stamp, that's the maker's trademark. And this stamp, this herringbone pattern, identifies this as being a Colchester type mortarium. These were made in Essex during the 2nd century. Here's the spout. I found this actually sticking out the foreshore like that. It was that high up, sticking out right out the foreshore. I thought it was a piece of plastic at first. And the interesting thing about this piece is it's been repaired with bitumen at some point. The spout has come off it, and the Romans have actually thought this valuable enough to actually repair, which is quite interesting. I would have thought these vessels would have just have been throwaway, but no, this one's been repaired. So the Romans certainly believed in recycling. Aha, another piece of Thames Shellyware rim. Again, this has got a fingerprint, thumbprint sort of decoration around it, where the potter's pressed his thumb into it. Same as this one. Again, nice piece of a very large storage bottle, or storage vase rather than bottle. These would have been huge. It's such a shame that the Romans on this particular site seem to have smashed everything to smithereens to try and get as much as they can into their rubbish dumps. But never mind. Another rather nice rim sherd. This has got plenty of inclusions in it, this one. But again, quite a nice profile on that. Probably a cooking pot. Now what else have we got? Again, another part of a storage vessel, this time with a sort of slash decoration on it. As I say, possibly used for the transportation of salts. And oh, this is rather nice. I do like pots with holes and piercings in. I mean, this is quite interesting. This is probably part of a lid, but as you can see, it's got a slot cut into it, possibly to let steam out during cooking. Very crudely done, but functional. Would have done the job. And what have we here? This looks like this is a part of a shallow bowl or pie dish, black burnish with a very characteristic lattice on it. They quite often have this lattice decoration. If you find a shard of this with a bit of lattice on it, you know it's black burnish ware, Roman. But again, a nice piece. Any more? Oh yeah, here we go. Again, a shallow bowl. This was dug out of a pot dump. A shallow bowl, black burnish ware with lattice on it, but as you can see, sooting to the underside of the rim. This has been used for cooking at some point. And also, if you look carefully, traces of dye on the top of it. So this is possibly thrown into some sort of rubbish pit, and rubbish including dye, any sort of debris would have been thrown on top. So here's another. Again, I don't know if you can see this, but it's a piece of black burnish ware again with the lattice decoration. Very characteristic. Definitely Roman. Now here we have another, what I think is a top, a lid of a vessel, but with holes around the edge of it. let's have a look. You probably see it better like that. If you see the holes, again, to let the steam out, nice and functional piece of Roman pot lid. I think that's nearly it. What else have we got here? Oh, we've got a few more bits and pieces. Another rather large bowl, again some sort of pie dish sort of thing. Black burnish ware again. No decoration on this one. Right, anything else of interest here? This looks like a piece of shelly ware. The old shell tempered storage jars, yep. Again, this time with that decoration. Not slashed, not combed, just they prodded a stick or something into it to decorate the collar. What have we here? That was a nice little sherd, black burnish ware. Again, a little rib of black burnished ware. Again, a pot, one of them pie dishes. Not spectacular, but nice. And this one's nice. Again, this is a part of a pie dish, a shallow dish, but this one's got squiggly lines on it. I don't know if you can see it along the top. This is quite characteristic of the stuff that's made in Essex, so possibly this was made on the opposite side of the river and brought over 1900 years ago. And another couple of pieces. Again, another piece of pie dish. I seem to find a lot of these. Again, I'm not sure if you can see that with squiggles going around the middle of it. So possibly manufactured in Essex. So it does go to show that there was a lot of trade between Essex and Kent in Roman times. Apparently, Kent had more sort of cultural affinity to Essex than it did have, or North Kent had more of a cultural affinity to Essex than to the rest of the Kent in Roman times. So there's certainly a lot of trade going across the river. And lastly, just a little simple black burnish ware base. Not a lot to look at, but 1900 years old, quite a nice piece. Well, so that's it. That's what I got back from the museum. Thanks for watching and have a happy Christmas and good hunting for next year.